Hello and welcome to another video tutorial Monday. This week I wanted to make a clean and simple card using a flower stamp and a sentiment stamp and some scoring. And the main purpose of this card is to show you how I use my Martha Stewart Scoreboard and why I use it on every card that I do pretty much. So I have started out with this piece of Sweet Blush cardstock from Paper Tray Ink, and it's cut down to half the size of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, so it's 5.5 inches tall and 8.5 inches wide. So this is going to make a card that folds like this, and you can either have the card go like this or like this. So what we want to do to make it score nicely, since this Paper Tray Ink cardstock is so thick, it's really high quality, but it's also very thick, so you have to treat it a little bit differently than just regular thin weight colored paper. So I always like to score it before I fold it so that you don't get cracking along the edge. So I have it lined up on my scoreboard. You just slide it into this corner, and I have the folder that came with it. I also have this rub-on tool actually from American Crafts that I keep in here when I want to get into really small areas, but I just usually use this regular tool. And half of 8.5 is 4 1/4. So you find the 4 1/4 mark, which is right here, and you just press lightly down the card. And I do this 3 or 4 times. And the reason why you want to press lightly is because you want a nice score line, but you don't want to damage the paper by stabbing it with the score tool. So now, you don't even need to score it on the other side, you just fold down from where you just scored, because that's just how scoring works. If you folded it up, you might get some cracking on this side, so you want to fold it down. And you just fold it. You can use your fingers to smooth it out. I usually just go over with the bone folder. Flip it over and make sure that crease is really nice. And now you have a perfectly folded card every time. So since this is going to be a clean and simple card, I wanted to do some score lines around it. So what I'm going to do, since it opens like this, I'm actually going to flip it over, and I want to do a 1/2 inch border around the outside. So what I'm going to do is just, now that I have it flipped over, I can measure in 1/2 inch here. So I'm going to 4 3/4 inches. And I'm just going to score all the way down the card about 3 times with medium pressure. And then I'll measure in a 1/2 inch from this side, so we're going from the 8 inch mark here. 1, 2, 3. And you could also use these markings right here to stop a 1/2 inch away from the edge if you wanted to make a perfect square without the edges. But I want the edges look on this. So now we're just going to turn it, and we're going to do the same thing we just did, measure in from a 1/2 inch in. So this is 5.5 inches long, so we go to the 5 inch mark, and we just stop where the card fold is. And then again on this edge, you just do 1/2 inch. And then when you flip it over, it's this beautiful card front. You can see the scoring here. And it's just great. And then just to add some extra interest, I'm going to score an 1/8 of an inch in on the top and bottom, because this will be a horizontal card. So I'm going to flip it back over and just do another line that's an 1/8 of an inch further in. And you see we have this nice, cute little scoring now. So the next thing we're going to do is put our scoreboard away. And I said this is a really clean and simple card, so I'm just going to use some chewing gum ink from Jenny Bolin Studios. It's almost an exact match to this cardstock, which means it'll leave a nice pretty watermark effect on the cardstock. And I'm using this stamp set from Paper Tray Ink with their roses, the Year Flower roses, and I'm just going to use the big flower from it. And my plan is to stamp it right here in between the lines. So I'm just going to ink it up with my ink. And you just have to be really thorough with this because you can't see the ink when it's on the stamp since it's such a light color. So you just have to make sure that you remember which places you went over and go over it a couple times. I'm kind of an OCD inker, if you haven't noticed. But what I really like about this ink is that it's not too juicy. It's not like pigment ink where if you put too much on it, it will really show up on your card. This one, it's a very easy to get the perfect amount of ink every time, which is another reason why I really love Jenny Bolin ink. So I'm just going to look over my stamp here and get it lined up within the lines, and then when I'm ready, I'm going to stamp down. So you can see we have a beautiful impression here, and it's perfectly tone on tone, so it fades into the background just enough to really show off that scoring lines. And I'm going to set that aside, and now it's time for the sentiment. And I want my sentiment to go right about here. This is from the Live and Laugh CL520 collection, or stamp set from Hero Arts. It's one of my very favorite sentiment stamps. I use it like every week. And it's just great because it goes with literally any theme you could ever want to make with a card. So I'm going to ink it up with some Jenny Bolin Spice Tin, and I'm actually going to open my card up for this so that it doesn't flap around. And I have my stamp already on my block here. So I'm just going to ink it up very well with the ink. And then stamp it right about here on the card. There we go. And then to finish off our little clean and simple card here, what I want to do is just use my Signo Uniball White to draw some stitching lines around the outside of the scoring here, just to emphasize that scoring. Okay, and you know I do this all the time where I say that's my last thing that I'm going to add and then decide I need one more thing, and that thing is usually some sort of embellishment. And this one is Hero Hue's pearls. And I figured just with my graphic elements here of my sentiment and my flower, so I think I need a third thing. And so I just have these 5 small pearls from the Hero Hue's line. And I'm just going to see where I want to put them. And I think what I want to do is actually put them in the corner, this corner right here. So I'm going to cut apart the between 2 and 3. And this way I have an easy corner set up so that I have these 3 right here. And then these 2 can just be placed so that it mimics the spacing of the other 2 that I just laid down. And that's super easy placement with pearls that are already stuck together. So this is the super clean and simple card this week. I hope you enjoyed learning how to use the scoreboard. It's one of my very favorite tools and I use it on every card that I make. And here's a picture of the finished card. Here's a picture of a close-up, and I hope you sit down in your studio and whip up a really clean and simple card today using one of your favorite tools. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you again next time.